Hello, in addition to our first video, this second video will show you our pneumatic diagram for our testbed system. It'll also hope to demonstrate the functionality of our valves and our cylinders and show you the different symbols used within a pneumatic diagram. These symbols all have reference material within our project on our Google Slides presentation. So we start off from our compressor. Our line goes into our filter. Our air is filtered. Then it goes to our air regulator. The symbol right here means that we have an air regulator, and then this down here, this smaller symbol with the squiggly line and the arrow means that our air regulator is adjustable. This dotted line leads us to our pressure gauge. This symbol down here means that we have a pressure gauge on the system, and then that leads us into our air lubricator. This symbol right here demonstrates our lubrication for our system. Nextly, we have our T line. If we go up and follow this line right here, it takes us to our first valve, which connects to our single acting cylinder. This first valve, we use the number 1 port as a supply port, feeding air into the cylinder, and it flows through to our number 2 port on the top of the valve. This port right here connects to our single acting cylinder right here and actuates the cylinder rod forward, so it's always at an extended position. However, when we use our number 3 button, as demonstrated earlier, air will then leave the system and go into, instead of going to here, it will now go towards our exhaust port for our system, exhausting our air from our system and allowing for the cylinder rod to de-actuate and go backwards, back inside of the cylinder. And then this symbol right here demonstrates our actuator that connects to our electrical box, and this shows that we have this right here, our spring return. Nextly, if we continue down, if we go back down the T-port, if we go to this side of the T-port and follow it to our 3-port valve, our 5-port valve, 3 ports on the bottom, an A and B port on top, we can follow. This is our supply port right here. The supply leads us to our number 2 port, which when we switch it to number 1, our cylinder goes up. When we switch it to number 2, the air goes down our number 4 port and goes down. You can hear it when you hear it click. That means it's actuating. You can hear the little clicks from the valve. And this feeds, these are our 2 exhaust ports right here. As shown on the diagram, right here, we have 2 actuating sides. We have 2 sides that can be switched from our electrical box right here. And then these small symbols right here are showing us our check valves on the system, which can meter air in or out. This is our first line that goes in to allow for our cylinder to go up. This is our bottom port, and then this is our top port that air flows out and allows for the cylinder rod to go back down. Now, in addition to this one for our double acting cylinder, we can also run our system through a manual valve. This manual valve, similar to our first valve, has an input port, which we can put here, and then it has 2 A and B ports, similar to our number 2 leads into our port that would be our import, allowing for air to go in, and then our number 4 would connect to the top, allowing for air to go out through our out port, using the same check valves from before. This is the valve diagram for this valve right here, as shown here, and that's similar to all these. So for this one, it's right here, and that correlates to this valve, and this one right here correlates to our other valve. This system includes the manual valve as a secondary option if we don't have this plugged in. That's why we used a dotted line to show that it's not active currently, but we could switch over to that line. If you want to complete for our system that we're currently using, we have this one, which is a simpler diagram. Here again is our air filter, our air regulator, which is adjustable, which flows into our pressure gauge. This dotted line leads us to our pressure gauge for the system. And then this is our air lubricator again. This is the T port leading to our first valve, again shown here with the supply port, our A and B ports, our exhaust port, and our port that sends air that flows air into our single acting cylinder. And then again, we also have our other valve, which works with our double acting cylinder, a supply port to exhaust ports, depending on which of these ports is being used. And then this port allows for us to send air to the bottom of the cylinder, allowing for us to move the cylinder rod up. And then this connects to the top of the cylinder, allowing for us to remove air from the cylinder and allow for the rod to go back down. That concludes our explanation of our pneumatics diagram for our test bed. Again, I'd like to thank our sponsors and have a wonderful rest of your day.